Over the past few months, a question has sparked intense debate. Is it okay to platform Nick Fuentes?
Looks like all the screaming about Nick Fuentes on the internet is finally dying down a little bit.
Very happy to see that Nick Fuentes really passed that test with flying colors.
If I were writing a glossary entry on the Streisand effect, I wouldn't put a picture of her next to it. I would put a picture of Nick Fuentes.
You got anybody in mind? Nick Fuentes?
You should have Nick Fuentes on your show and you could ask him questions about that.
Had on this guy, this Fuentes guy, and never challenged him.
That fragmentation is being caused purposefully by a splinter faction of people led by a young man named Nick Fuentes.
The obvious question is, why would you put Nick Fuentes on your podcast? Why would you do that? My lawyers, don't do it.
For several months now, there's been no avoiding the subject of
Nick Fuentes.
And let's be clear, the main reason you're hearing about him is because he's popular. A large number of people, especially young men, are interested in what he has to say. What that says about our society and our culture is the subject of ferocious debate. And a frankly preposterous amount of airtime has been spent on debating everything from his ideology to his sexuality and whether anyone should actually talk to him at all. The truth is, it doesn't make a lot of sense to spend all this time talking about Nick Fuentes, but not actually to Nick Fuentes. People who say you shouldn't give him a platform overlook the very obvious fact that he already has a platform of his own, which is often bigger than most of the people complaining.
Who is Nick Fuentes?
Nick Fuentes, I would say, is the most popular representative of neo-Nazism in America.
Expand.
By his own story, he comes from a middle-class background in the suburbs of Chicago. He became interested in political activism. He was a fervent Trump supporter. And then he ran afoul, according to him, of some gatekeepers in the conservative movement, namely Ben Shapiro, who accused him of anti-Semitism when he asked questions about U.S. policy towards Israel.
Once I started watching some of your clips, because I never watched you, I was told you're a bad person. I realized you're very, very good at breaking down exactly what the problems are with our greatest ally.
Right.
So I think they looked at you as a threat. Plus, you had the young audience, the Zoomers. You're probably starting to build a big audience when they cut you off.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, so I did something on the campus. I debated the class president or whatever. It's a long story how it got going, but I literally did an in real life event with the campus president, my first week in college. 300 people came. We debated Trump versus Hillary. And that's how I actually met Cassie Dillon. She live streamed it on Periscope. And she told me after the fact, she said, Ben Shapiro watched it. And I told him he needs to take you under his wing.
Oh, wow.
So they were literally grooming me
you, yeah.
to be the next
big star to
whatever.
push Israel.
And who knows? I mean, maybe I'd just be a low-level influencer. But, this is what they do. They
you would have been big with the way you speak. You could have been a big star if you'd have sold out. You could be making millions, being a star. But you feel a lot better as you are, I bet.
Yeah, well, and I think that was the play. And I think they clocked me as a threat because you're right. I'm reasonable and I bring humor to the table, and at that time I was a very young guy. And so they basically said we need to throttle this guy in the crib before he really gets any momentum.
Nick Fuentes is a political commentator and live streamer. He hosts a show called America First, and his fans are known as the Groypers. He's been banned from many major platforms, including YouTube, Twitter before Elon's acquisition, Facebook, and others. His political positions have been characterized as dangerous and drawn the ire and disdain of various organizations. He has made statements praising historical figures, including Adolf Hitler, and expressed views on race, religion, and gender that have drawn condemnation from many. Some people also think that he's cool and base, but that's for you to decide. Maybe you fall somewhere in the middle. For more general lore surrounding Nick, check out this video. But the single issue that seems to cause the most trouble for Nick is the questioning of the United States' support for Israel. And through all this questioning, Nick feels like he hasn't gotten a proper answer still.
This is something that maybe is helpful to explain my mindset. I'm waiting for someone to prove me wrong. I'm pushing on all these narratives, the foreign aid, the Iraq war, all of it. And I'm waiting for someone to tell me, here's all the evidence, the obvious evidence that it isn't all just a big thing. It's not just a big conspiracy. And I'm asking in good faith, where is that evidence? Cassie, my friend, and all the rest of them. And instead of getting an answer, I'm getting blocked. I'm getting tattled on. I'm getting clipped out of context. They're selling me out to the left. I'm getting called names.
Throughout 2023 and 24, Nick would start leaking into what some would call normie media circles by appearing on podcasts, collaborating with influencers and streamers. He appeared on the Fresh and Fit podcast and was interviewed by the Nelk Boys, Patrick Bet-David, and Bradley Martin with his No Condom podcast.
What is it like being almost seems like enemy number one to the government?
It's tough. It's weird because I feel like I do a talk show.
Yeah.
So in a way, I don't do exactly the same thing as you, but ultimately I do videos. I live stream myself giving speeches about politics. And I've been on the no-fly list. I've had my bank accounts frozen. I've had people try to kill me at my house. So I've sort of accepted it. It's normal for me. I've been doing it for 10 years. Some days I wake up and I'm like, I feel like a but I do a talk show, or at least that's how I'm treated. So, but it's like anything. You get acclimated to it. You get used to it.
What do you do just for fun, like as a human? Also, we got to talk about the fact that you almost got
unalive.
So I saw a clip of someone with a dirt bike or motorcycle helmet pull up to your house, and they had a
pew pew. Yeah.
What happened?
Well, after the election, I got really viral because I said, "Your body, my choice." I tweeted
Oh
that.
my God, that was you.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh my God, that was all over. That was on everything.
I know.
All these memes. Oh my God.
It was fun until then my address went equally viral next to it. Everybody posted my home address, my phone number. And so people started just coming to my house.
That definitely pissed a lot of people off.
Oh, yeah, pissed off. Dude, it was insane. I mean, that weekend, 100 people came to my house, individually, driving by, walking by, taking pictures outside my house, throwing eggs in my house. And
what are you in there just like barricaded with
pew,
a
pew.
or something?
Yes.
Yeah,
literally.
That makes sense.
Barricaded with a
pew, pew.
But most of it was harmless. But I hired private security for about a month, which cost a fortune. But I had security out there. And then the security guard quit because he found out who I was.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So we had this big security guard and then he stopped showing up. So we had days without security, days with security. And that went on for like a month. And then it's finally started to cool off. And then I was doing my show one night and I'm doing my show like normal. It was December 18th. I remember it was Stalin's birthday. I'm a big fan of Joseph Stalin. That's how I remember it. But so it was December 18th. And I'm doing the show. It's all normal. Things have been quiet. And I hear someone yelling outside, which was normal because we were having visitors all the time. So I said, whatever. But I checked the Ring camera and I see the guy's got a
pew pew.
And I was like, oh shit, I got to wrap this show up. But I didn't want people to panic. So I just wrapped it up as quickly as possible. And I finished the show. My producer comes in. I said, what's going on? Is everything okay? He goes, yeah, the cops are already here. I said, okay, good. I go upstairs to get changed and I hear
bang, bang
outside my house. I said, what the We didn't know anything for a whole day.
But you're in Chicago. That's pretty normal.
No, not where I am.
I'm kidding.
People say that, yeah, but it was very strange, and we weren't told anything. So it turns out it was a kid. He was like 23 years old. He was little. He was like 5'3", and I guess he had a falling out with his college roommate. The college roommate beat the shit out of him, and they were best friends. This was in the summer of last year, and ever since that happened, this kid was on a downward spiral. He had to move home. He dropped out of school. He was hospitalized over this big psychological effect. He tried to sue the kid. He got in a hit and run crash and fled the scene, and the cops came to his house and he was pissed. He lost his job. So this kid that came to my house, in Southern Illinois by the University of Illinois, he went to that guy's house, his friend, the friend, his mom, the sister, his whole family.
Bro,
First.
what the? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And what was really fucked up, so he goes to the kid's house and knocks on his door with the motorcycle helmet on. And the family answers the door and says, oh, your buddy isn't home. He said, okay. And the sister, the victim's sister, tweeted the day it happened. She said, I'm trying not to freak out and be a Karen and call the cops, but there's a guy in a motorcycle helmet outside my house, and I'm afraid. When his buddy got home, this buddy, the sister, the mom in the driveway, in the garage. He gets in his car, drives 2 hours to my house, directly to my house, doesn't stop, pulls up in front of my house, gets out. He's got his motorcycle helmet on. He's got a .22 pistol and a crossbow, a reloadable crossbow with like a magazine.
Yeah.
And literally comes out with guns in each hand and knocks on the door and rings the doorbell. And he's literally standing out there with his gun in his lap, waiting for me to answer the door. And so he starts yelling, hey, Nick, come out here. That's what I heard during the show. And he's pacing around the house. He goes around to the back, goes around to the front. He's trying the door. So my producer calls the cops. Cops show up. He makes a break for it. He runs through the backyard, jumps over the fence into the alley. He runs into a neighbor's basement, which the door was unlocked. They're dogs.
Oh, bro, this guy's...
But he runs back outside. He shoots at the cops. The cops shoot him in the head. He
rest in peace.
We don't know anything else about him, but that was the story. And
holy
Hitler? Yes. Hitler did do that.
Yeah, he burned a bunch of books on transgenderism and homosexuality.
It's one of the good things that Hitler did, yes.
Yeah, okay, well, great. Shout out to Hitler for that.
I like Jewish people.
No, you know, I heard the last show y'all did.
I like them. They just cause me a lot of problems. You know, they're really...
Because why can't two same-sex people get married, but two straight people can?
Because it wasn't about contract law. It was about marriage. It was about they wanted to be called married. And it was also about legitimizing homosexuality.
Right, because of the rights that come with when you get...
That you had...
They want the same legally binding rights as the heterosexual person.
I disagree.
And you completely dismiss that.
No, I'm saying I disagree. I think all that is really a pretext, you know, because they always say civil rights, equality. When in actuality, what they want is acceptance and normalization, and they want it to be considered as not bad. Because prior to this, homosexuality was considered sinful. You know, the Supreme Court decision came down, I think, in the 60s, and it basically said, like, we don't even need to explain this. It's natural law. Like, homosexuality is wrong. Sodomy's wrong. And so I think, you know, under the pretext of we want visitation rights, you know, we don't want discrimination in the workplace. Like you say, it's about making it less discreet. It's about making it public, normal, accepted. And I'm saying I don't think it should be. I think these things are wrong. I think both things are wrong.
So you don't think that gay people should have equal rights as everybody else?
I don't think they should be they can't get married. No.
Do you have a girlfriend?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Have you ever had a girlfriend?
No.
Zero. No lays. Okay, let's talk about what's your perfect partner.
I think that you have to ask yourself, why are certain opinions considered beyond the pale? Certain opinions are considered too extreme or radical and some aren't. I think it has everything to do with who has political power. And so, for example, I'll give you just one example. There was a bill that passed the House of Representatives this week. The vote was 422 to 6. So virtually every member of Congress voted in favor of the bill. Can you guess what it was? It was $500 million for missiles for Israel. Now, you think we just passed this extremely contentious bill, Trump's big, beautiful bill. It cuts Medicaid. It does a corporate tax cut. It does $150 billion for border. It was split down party lines, 50 in favor, 50 against. That's how everything is. Everything, the nominations, the major legislation, it's 50 in favor, 50 against. But when it comes to foreign aid to Israel, it's 420 to 6. It's everybody versus like a handful of people. And this speaks to the fact that our political order, our political system, the government, the mainstream media, they seem to be 99 to 1 basically in favor of supporting Israel, of supporting Holocaust museums, Holocaust Memorial Day, all this kind of stuff. And when it comes to almost anything else, it's whether it's giving people health care, whether it's closing the border. Oh, this is so contentious. We can't do it. It's so controversial. You're a radical. And it's interesting how it's on, you know, I'm a right-wing guy, but it's on the right and the left. If somebody comes out and says, I think everybody should have health care, you're a radical. I think we should have closed borders. You're a radical. I think we should give missiles to a country that's committing an ethnic cleansing. 500 people vote in favor of that. Everyone supports that. That's fine. It's actually beyond the pale if you disagree. Yeah. So America's no longer America. Mass migration is changing what America is. And I want to conserve what America historically has always been.
That's a little bit harsh.
Well, I'm not in favor of interracial marriages. That's against my values. I want to have a white wife. I want to have white kids. That's important to me.
That's kind of racist.
I agree.
The New York Times published a profile of Nick titled Nick Fuentes, a white nationalist problem for the right. The article examined his growing influence and noted that he has turned against President Trump. The article documented how Fuentes appears to have grown despite deplatforming efforts and highlights tensions within the Republican Party and how to address his presence. On Nick's live stream, he gives his unfiltered thoughts on Trump and his administration. But also to note, Nick has complimented the president in his sense of humor and aura, so the vibes aren't all bad when it comes to the relationship.
And he's on his way out to leave, and one of the people on the line yells up to him, "You're a pedo protector, pedo protector!" And Trump points to him and goes, "Fuck you," and then flips him off. You know, just when you think you're out, he pulls you back in. But you can't lie. Like, some of the stuff he's been doing, it's kind of just awful. My problem with Trump is not that he's Hitler, okay? My problem with Trump is that he is not Hitler. I'm criticizing Trump because there's not enough deportations. There's not enough ICE brutality. There's not enough National Guard. I am criticizing Trump because I want all Somalians out of America immediately. This is why everyone hates Trump. Everyone hates this administration because it is a scam. It's not even a failure. It's not even an honest failure. It is a scam. We are not getting anything that we have been promised. Think about it. We were promised industrial policy, tariffs, subsidies. They backed down in 1 week. And then said, oh, the whole time it was really just about China. Remember that? Another fake out. And then when the bond market melted down, they said, never mind. It was really just a big trick. And what we always intended to do was to only have tariffs on China and nobody else. Trump always chickens out. Then he said, we're going to deploy the National Guard to Chicago and LA and Memphis and every major city, and we're going to bring law and order to the streets. Then they said, oh, actually, we can't do that. And if we deploy 200 National Guard, that's what we meant. And we're only doing it for 60 days. And it never happened. Trump always chickens out. He said mass deportations. We're going to get all these people back. We're going to deport everybody, the violent criminals first and then everybody else. 300,000 deportations for the year. Every single thing is a catastrophe. And instead of just being honest about the state of things, instead of actually just recommitting to doing these things that were promised, we get excuses. They just fucking lie. And Trump gets up in a primetime address like he did every week in the first term and said, actually, everything's really going great. And it's like we just live in two different worlds now. We live in two different worlds with MAGA supporters, with Trump supporters.
In October 2025, Tucker Carlson hosted Fuentes on his show for a 2-hour interview. During the conversation, Fuentes discussed his views on immigration, Israel, and what he described as America's cultural identity.
And I think that neoconservatism, where does it arise from? It arises from Jewish leftists who were mugged by reality when they saw the surprise attack in the Yom Kippur War.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of it for sure. But then, like, how do you explain Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, and there are a lot like that, John Bolton. I mean, I've known them all, George W. Bush, like Karl Rove. I mean, all people I know personally who I've seen be seized by this brain virus, and they're not Jewish.
December 18th, I remember because that's an important date to me. And it's Joseph Stalin's birthday.
Oh.
I'm a fan.
You're a fan of Stalin's?
Always an admirer. But we don't need to go into that, I guess.
Well, that's, okay, let's get back to it. We'll circle back.
Putting aside the tribal interest for the corporate interest,
Yes.
that's absolutely the case. And that's the only way the country's going to stay together.
Exactly.
And
That's my concern.
And I absolutely agree with you. The main challenge to that, a big challenge to that, is organized Jewry in America.
The interview drew a lot of responses, including from Ben Shapiro.
We have a duty to take responsibility for what we say and do. If we hire awful people, we're responsible for that. That means that if we offer a guest for your viewing, we owe it to you to ask the kinds of questions that actually get at the truth. So, for example, if you host a Hitler apologist, Nazi-loving, anti-American piece of refuse like Nick Fuentes, you know, the Nick Fuentes who said that the vice president of the United States is a, quote, fat gay race traitor married to a Jeet. The person who said that Charlie Kirk was a, quote, retarded idiot. The person who said, and pardon my language here, it's his quote, that he, quote, took Turning Point USA and fucked it, and that's why it's filled with groypers. If you have that person on your show and you proceed to glaze him, you ought to own it. There is a reason that Charlie Kirk despised Nick Fuentes. He knew that Nick Fuentes is an evil troll, and that building him up is an act of moral imbecility. And that is precisely what Tucker Carlson did. He built Nick Fuentes up, and he ought to take responsibility for that.
Republican Senator Ted Cruz spoke out publicly against Carlson's interview on stage at the RGC Summit.
If you sit there with someone who says Adolf Hitler was very, very cool, and that their mission is to combat and defeat global Jewry, and you say nothing, then you are a coward, and you are complicit in that evil.
Following the Tucker Carlson interview, Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation, released a video defending Tucker.
We will always defend truth. We will always defend America. And we will always defend our friends against the slander of bad actors who serve someone else's agenda. That includes Tucker Carlson, who remains, and as I have said before, always will be a close friend of the Heritage Foundation. The venomous coalition attacking him are sowing division. Their attempt to cancel him will fail. Most importantly, the American people expect us to be focusing on our political adversaries on the left, not attacking our friends on the right. I disagree with, and even abhor, things that Nick Fuentes says. But canceling him is not the answer either. When we disagree with a person's thoughts and opinions, we challenge those ideas in debate. And we have seen success in this approach as we continue to dismantle the vile ideas of the left.
This defense sparked internal turmoil at the Heritage Foundation. Board member Robert P. George resigned. Does the P stand for penis? I'm not here to speculate. But Robert Penis George did say that he could not remain on the board unless Roberts retracted the video. Other SHAF members reportedly expressed concerns at the orifices for the Heritage Foundation. This was quickly followed by an internal SHAF reassignment. Roberts later apologized and condemned Fuentes' views, posting on Twitter, although Roberts did not fully retract his earlier video. But there's a lot to dig into with the Heritage Foundation, Project 2025, and Project Esther. Check out these other videos if you want to dig deeper into this rabbit's hole.
The Canary mission is an Israeli-funded blacklist, which since July 2025 has been confirmed to be used by the Trump administration to target students, professors, and professionals who oppose Israel and reside in the United States. This idea is part of an initiative created by the Heritage Foundation, the same group responsible for the infamous Project 2025. In their initiative, titled Project Esther, they state that students participating in pro-Palestinian protests and activism are supporting Hamas, a group that the United States designates as a foreign terrorist organization. Therefore, pro-Palestinian students are considered to be supporting terrorism and are subject to the revocation of visas, frozen bank accounts, asset seizures, and the denial of basic constitutional rights. In effect, the Canary mission serves as a means to circumvent constitutional protections, allowing the federal government to engage in intelligence gathering activities that would otherwise be considered unlawful. But the Canary mission is not alone. Palantir, another company closely aligned with the State of Israel, uses AI-driven analytics to maintain private databases on U.S. citizens and currently works with 4 federal agencies. While government contracting with the private sector is longstanding, the prominent influence of Jewish groups within these increasingly powerful organizations warrants careful examination.
Here's Trump's response when asked about the Carlson-Fuentes interview.
What role do you think Tucker Carlson should play in the Republican Party and the conservative movement going forward?
Well, I found him to be good. I mean, he said good things about me over the years. I think he's good. We've had some good interviews, but you can't tell him who to interview. I mean, if he wants to interview Nick Fuentes, I don't know much about him. Get the word out. Let him, people have to decide. Ultimately, people have to decide.
You yourself had dinner with Nick Fuentes at Mar-a-Lago a few years ago. What role should he play in the conservative movement?
Well, I didn't know he was coming, and he was with, as you know, somebody, Kanye. And Kanye asked if he could have dinner, and he brought Nick. I didn't know Nick at the time, and he did. He came, and along with a few other people. He brought a few people with him. Meeting people, talking to people, like for somebody like Tucker, that's what they do. People are controversial. Some are, some aren't. I'm not controversial, so I like it that way.
This was not Trump's first connection to Fuentes. In November 2022, Fuentes dined with Trump and rapper Kanye West at Mar-a-Lago. Trump would say that he had not previously met Fuentes and that Ye brought him along as a guest. Nick made an appearance on Steven Crowder's podcast a couple weeks before going on Piers Morgan. Crowder tried to give context around some of Nick's more controversial takes and focus on areas where he thought the media misconstrued what Nick was saying.
Again, socialized healthcare, very important to me just because of the results. I understand where you're coming from, saying that our system is broken. I just have seen how much more broken it can be. Immigration, both legal and illegal. I think we agree, maybe different methods, if that's fair, but I don't want Texas to look like India. We have a segment, Eye on India, where it's pretty much just human beings throwing shit. It's a terrible, terrible place. And I don't believe that they're smarter. I don't believe that we should be replacing Americans. So I think we're on board there. But freedom of speech.
I'm not in favor of gun control in America. I just don't even think that's practical. It's 400, 500 million guns or something. I don't think it's possible to control guns here. It's kind of, I don't really have a fleshed out, hot take on it. Where do we draw the line? I know in Texas, for example, you have open carry, and I've done it. I was down in Texas with John Doyle actually years ago before we became enemies. We were walking around with guns in our back pocket in the gas station. And I'm thinking, I actually don't know that I want to live in a city where people are literally walking around with guns hanging out of their pants.
Everyone in the studio is strapped right now, and I love it. You're almost making me erect.
I guess I'm in favor of concealed carry. We should be able to own guns. I just feel like at a certain point it becomes less safe, more than more safe. So, but like I said, I don't really have a fleshed out take. I'm ideologically in favor of the Second Amendment. I do support it. I don't have any prescriptive gun control measures. I just think there's a limit to it, and I get a little uncomfortable by some of it sometimes.
Okay, well, I think that's a fair answer. If it's just, I noticed they cut out the part where you said you were not calling for political violence, which I think is an indictment on the Hill. But I would also ask, you say that, but you also talk about executing people. So if you're not advocating political violence as it relates to putting people to death, how would you do it?
Well, that was a few years ago, and I would say that I'm not really in favor of the death penalty at all anymore. But I remember that monologue well because I saw a lot of this satanic occult stuff. I'm talking about Pizzagate stuff. We have to acknowledge there are a lot of people in the elite that are straight up devil worshippers. I firmly believe in this eyes wide shut kind of thing that does happen. I don't think it's necessarily a grand conspiracy, but
no, there's spiritual warfare for sure.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of those types of people out there, especially in Hollywood. I saw it up close and personal when I was with Ye, and I just hate that stuff so much.
Wait a second. Wait, I want to give you the answer, but what do you mean you saw it up close? Were you at an Eyes Wide Shut party with Ye?
No, I wasn't at a party, but, being with him, you see You know, like with Balenciaga, they did that at Balenciaga.
Okay, all right.
They had that like S&M teddy bear, you know, and there's things like that. It's like a wink and a nod to basically just evil, just straight up evil.
In December 2025, Piers Morgan interviewed Fuentes on his show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, for over 2 hours. Then, of course, there's the backlash that Piers had for having the interview and him having to explain himself.
Do you ever feel that the people who come on are too extreme to represent where the majority position is on an issue, and that actually contributes to more divisiveness in our culture rather than to problem solving?
It's a good question. I think, look, I've interviewed Nick Fuentes last week. Many people think he's due to the extreme right. And, you know, it certainly blew up very big and millions of people watched it and millions of people debated it and it caused a lot of controversy and so on. My view about people like him is you can either let them operate in their own silo, unchallenged, unhinged in many ways, and just spread their message, which many people think is extreme, to millions and millions of people, and they get their own traction without anyone holding them to account. Or, as with Andrew Tate, another one I would say I've interviewed a few times, I get them in front of me. They already have a big following. It's not going to make much difference whether I interview them or not, but I do at least then have something on my platform where people can come and they can see them properly challenged. I think that is a worthwhile duty, because the alternative is, it's not like the old days on mainstream television where you could literally no platform these people and they would have no way of spreading their message to millions of people. There wasn't the mechanism pre the internet to do that. So if you were very, very extreme, you would likely never appear on the airwaves, either television or radio. It's very different now. As you know, Batia, so many people now have huge following on social media, on YouTube and other platforms like this, where it doesn't really matter what mainstream media thinks about. And they're free and unfettered in the way that they can just say whatever they want. I like to think that one of my roles coming from the center ground is to call everyone like that on the far left, the far right, to account properly in a way that at least it sits there on my platform, which is a big platform now too, and people can watch it and they can see these views challenged in real time. And then they can make their own minds up.
During the interview, Piers asked Fuentes about past statements. He was confronted about his comments regarding race, and Fuentes appeared to moderate some positions and offer clarification.
This is where you talk about Jews, women, and blacks. Let's just take a listen.
They're always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple.
Okay. Would you like to clarify what you meant there?
That's all true. That's 100% true. Everything I said in that clip is true.
Including that blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, all of them?
No, for the most part.
What does the most part mean? What percentage of American blacks would you like to see in prison?
Whatever the percentages of the murderers. I think it's 1 in 20 black men will commit a murder in their lifetime. So maybe let's say that, 5%.
Oh, so you're talking about black people who murder people?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But you didn't say that.
That's
you just said
problem.
blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. You didn't clarify that you were talking about black murderers.
Right. No, you're right. That's a good addition to that. That's a great point.
You think it's funny, or?
I do. I think it's hilarious. I think it's totally true.
Do you think a black American would find it funny? You think that blacks should be imprisoned for the most part?
Blacks are my biggest fans. I get high fives all the time. They say, Nick Fuentes, I love your show. They agree with me. And you want to know why? Here's the difference. Black people are the most victimized by other black people. You think black people want to live in the hood and the ghetto and get shot all the time? That's what happens in the south side of Chicago. You should come here. I'll take you there. We could go to Garfield Park.
My son went to Chicago
Inglewood.
University for a year, actually, several years ago.
Yeah, that's a bubble. That's a bubble. You think you're in Chicago and Hyde Park? You don't know Chicago. Go a little bit west. See what it's like over there. And I'll tell you, black people agree with me because they're tired of it too. And maybe not most of them, but a lot of them agree with what I say about that because they know how it is. That's why the first thing they do when they make a little bit of money is they go and leave to another neighborhood.
Okay, so what was just remind me again, the percentage of black men who commit murder in America. What was the percentage you gave me?
It's 1 in 20. 1 in 20.
It's 1 in 100.
No, it's 1 in 20.
No. Less than 1 in 100 black US men commit murder. That's the most up-to-date crime statistics in America.
That's not true. I've seen other statistics. They say 1 in 20 will eventually commit a murder.
So your rate means that you're saying that 5 times as many black men commit murder as the official crime statistics say?
Yeah, there's a report, I believe, on X by Data Hazard. I'll have to go and double check that for you. But yes, there's some pretty shocking evidence that says that it's far more alarming than you would think.
Okay, but you would accept that the official crime statistics are 1 in 100, or you wouldn't accept that statistic?
I don't know. I don't have it in front of me, but I've seen other evidence. Like I said, Data Hazard on X, I believe, produced a report about a year ago. It said 1 in 20. But I mean, whether it's 1 in 20 or 1 in 100, that's a lot of people, Piers. I mean,
Sure,
this is
a lot
real
of white
problem.
people commit murder too. Well, they do, don't they?
Okay, but it's about proportionality. I mean, white people are 65% of the population, blacks are 13%. And I think anybody would tell you that more black people proportionally commit violent crime than white people. And people vote with their feet. People would rather pay a much higher property tax.
Most mass
What's with the
shootings.
interruptions?
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, you look at in Chicago, in New York, these neighborhoods are so stratified. People would rather pay a high tax rate. They'd rather pay a much higher property value to live in a less diverse, less black neighborhood because they don't want to live around the violence. And I think that when you look at even on the public transit, the subway, the blue line, you know, people don't want to go there because they know who occupies and menaces the public transit. It is these people like Daniel Penny had to deal with. It's people like Irina Zarutska had to deal with. And that's just the uncomfortable reality.
You've also said you don't want to live near black people. Let's take a listen to this clip.
I'm a new generation of white person. I'm not living around blacks. Sorry, you know, I want white kids and I don't want my white kids bringing home black people to marry. It's racial for me. And call me racist. Oh, very Christian of you. I don't give a fuck.
I mean, it couldn't be clearer, really, unless you want to say that's another of your jokes. But you're basically saying, yeah, I'm a racist, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You're fine with saying you're a racist?
Totally. I think everybody's racist. I think everybody, if we're being honest, is racist. I think everybody, the only people that aren't racist or pretend not to be are white people to their detriment.
Some people with family loss during World War II had some questions about Nick's opinions of Stalin and Hitler.
I want to play you two clips. One is where you talk about Adolf Hitler.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool. So, you know, time to grow up. We're not children anymore. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right, boys? Am I right? Let's go. He was also really fucking cool.
You regret saying that?
Saying a fact? No, that's absolutely true.
You think Hitler was very fucking cool?
Yes, I do.
One of them.
And I'm tired of pretending he's not,
well,
to be honest.
This is the problem, you see. It's a bit like when you just say, I'm a racist. You're a racist who thinks Hitler's cool, but you're not anti-Semitic. If you're a Jewish person watching this, what are they thinking? I'll tell you what they're thinking, because I've got a friend of mine called Danny Finkelstein. Who, when he heard I was interviewing you, he's a Times journalist in the UK, very eminent journalist here, and author, who wrote a book about his own family's experiences at the hands of Hitler and Stalin, because he also told Tucker Carlson. Let's just take what Danny said here.
Hi Piers, it's Danny Finkelstein here. As you're interviewing Nick Fuentes, you might try suggesting to him that he reads my book, Hitler, Stalin, Mum and Dad. It's called Two Roads Home in the United States. You might like to ask him about the fact that Hitler arrested my mum, tried to starve my mum to death, did starve my grandmother to death, sent my great aunt to the gas chamber, my great uncle. So you might ask him whether he wouldn't rather be on Team Mum rather than Team Hitler. And as for celebrating Stalin's birthday, well, Stalin took my father, sent him to a state collective farm, sent my tray asking him why he doesn't celebrate Dad's birthday rather than Stalin's. It may all be a big joke to him, but he can...
See, that's the reality of your jokes, although I haven't ascertained yet whether you are joking when you say that Hitler was very fucking cool. Are you joking, or do you actually think he was very fucking cool? The most genocidal monster of the last 150 years?
Yeah, the thing is, my generation, we're just done with the pearl clutching. You know,
yeah, you might be, but then your generation hasn't gone through what Danny Finkelstein's family went through. So
yeah, we got all that. We, you know, me mom, like we're, you know, I don't even know who this person is. Why is this person talking to me? This old British guy is saying me mom got killed by Hitler. And
me mom died in a Harley. Me pa was killed by Stalin.
Doesn't find it funny when you say Hitler's very fucking cool.
I don't care.
He finds
I don't care.
I know you don't care. That's fine. You don't have to care, but he does care.
Does that guy care about America? Does that guy care about me and my country and my family? No.
Responses to this interview were mixed, to say the least.
I first have to say, I commend you for doing this interview. I know some people say, why would you platform this person? I think it took courage for you to put him on, and I'm glad that you did, because if there's not an adult in the room to ask the hard questions and hold these type of voices accountable, then they just run unchecked.
Right.
And
I thought the way that you conducted the interview was fantastic. I watched the entire thing, and you I think, are the only interviewers so far to really hold Nick Fuentes accountable and not
should you even be talking to this guy?
Right.
And I got to be honest with you, Piers, I've struggled with this. I interview controversial people. I sit down with people who people say don't platform them, and I take seriously your point that they already have a platform. And I'm not making them big. I'm not drawing attention to them. They already have the attention. They're just not being questioned or challenged on that platform. I concede that point. I agree with you fully. The problem with this guy, the problem with Nick Fuentes in particular, though, to me, is he's such a chameleon, and he moves in such a way that I'm not sure holding him accountable matters to his base, and he does just enough to look moderate and normal and reasonable that I think he'll do more damage by sneaking some people from the middle and dragging them to his side because they think he's reasonable, and only later find out that he's a sexist, misogynist, Hitler-loving Nazi, right? Or whatever he is, right? That's where the danger comes for me. I'm not saying we should interview controversial people. I'm just saying this particular guy, I feel like we're playing into his interests and his angle.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even consider it to be a difficult question at all. I mean, if you're going to have people on who are responsible for the invasion and destruction of Iraq based on lies, or the incineration of Vietnam, or the destruction of Gaza and the deaths of tens of thousands of people, and welcome them and treat them like respectable people, tell me what it is that Nick Fuentes has done remotely as bad as that justifies allowing them to come on and speak, but not him. And whether you like it or not, he does speak for a huge number of people in his generation, and even other generations as well, who feel the same kind of anger and frustration with the status quo, with the establishment, with the kind of dogma that we've been told we have to accept. And there's a lot of people who are angry about it and who rebel against it. And we saw this with Donald Trump on maybe a little bit of a smaller scale, but very much the same pattern. And no one wanted to grapple with the reason why his message was resonating so much. And to me, it is very similar to Nick Fuentes. Say what you want about him. He's extremely smart, an incredibly talented communicator, and very well read. Like, he's very informed. And I think the reason he has attracted a lot of attention is because he's speaking to the anger and frustration, a lot of which is valid, of a lot of people. And to stick your head in the sand and say, oh, we're going to pretend that this isn't happening because his views are too off, but the people who start wars or are responsible for the 2008 financial crisis, these are respectable people who we treat with respect, like Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton or whoever. That, to me, is the kind of thing that I think is really distorted.
No, I think it's totally understandable, and I agree that you would have him on. I was in the same position.
In late December 2025, comedian Shane Gillis appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. During the conversation, Joe and Shane discussed Nick Fuentes and the likelihood of him becoming president.
You'd think we'd have more presidents, the Catholics.
Yeah, they only had one.
Biden,
right?
too.
Oh, Biden's Catholic.
We got Biden.
Allegedly.
True. We only got one. He got shot, and then Biden was doing auto sign. Give us a good one.
Yeah. You got anybody in mind?
Fuentes.
Nick Fuentes? He could probably win in a few years.
Hold on, let's talk.
Listen, he couldn't have existed before, right? 10, 20 years ago, couldn't have existed. Now, super popular. What's 20 years from now look like? You know, maybe someone like that can win.
Well, we'll see.
I got to pee so bad. We got to wrap this up anyway.
I'm
sorry,
down.
4:18.
We got that one at the buzzer.
Yeah. Well, listen, I will say this about it. It's fascinating to watch that there's like a whole group of people that feel very unrepresented in the world, and especially like young men. And here you got this young guy with a very high verbal IQ, and he also does a lot of shit posting, a lot of talking shit, a lot of trolling, says women shouldn't be allowed to vote, says wild shit. And that Piers Morgan thing is like, bro, that was like an expert sparring with someone who thought they were an expert.
Sure.
Like, they're playing two totally different games.
And it's also the thing that people try to get Fuentes on is that he's still funny as fuck.
It's funny.
So that's where you're in a lot of trouble.
When he hits him, do you think you made jokes about the Holocaust? He goes, too soon? Like, dude.
Yeah.
And you could see
he's wild.
You could see Piers going, "Oh fuck,
bro!" When he was like, "Me mom died," I was like, "Holy shit,
bro!" He got hit. He got hit with a missile on that one. Too soon. Too soon. It was like, oh my.
So when does interviewing a controversial figure constitute legitimate journalism? And when does it provide a platform to amplify what some would call harmful views? Those in favor of these interviews might contend a position like Piers Morgan, stating that Fuentes already has millions of followers and that an interview allows for a proper account. But critics also contend that providing mainstream media access legitimizes fringe figures. They point out that historical extremist movements gain power over incremental normalization. Many Jewish organizations, civil rights groups, and some conservative commentators have taken this position. But whether you love him or hate him, the guy pulls numbers. Tucker's interview appears over 2 million. Dave Smith had an interview over 2 million. Steven Crowder, 1.5 million, so on and so on. And Fuentes' Twitter, over 1 million followers. Hell, we made an iceberg video and it has over 250,000 views at the time of me writing this. The question of is the media platforming Nick Fuentes doesn't have a simple answer. It depends on how you define platforming and what one believes to be the role and responsibility of the media. The question remains open. Moving forward, how will media organizations navigate the tensions between covering controversial figures and potentially amplifying their reach? Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you'd like this video, make sure to subscribe. We do a podcast every Saturday and videos like this, usually at least 1 or 2 a month. Thanks. Have a good one. Bye.